was not the last thing we shot. It was the only reason I wanted to do the last season.
MASH wasn't just a TV show, it was a force, a tidal wave that crashed into a generation, stirring laughter through tears, shattering hearts with its brutal honesty. But don't be fooled. Behind the curtain, perfection was a stranger. The truth? It was a battlefield of its own, tempers flaring, secrets simmering, and casting twists that could stop you in your tracks. Now, at long last, Alan Alda pulls back the veil, spilling revelations most of you have never dared to imagine. Who was the shadow he quietly loathed, and what fueled that hidden fire? What jaw-dropping surprises lurked just beyond the camera's gaze? MASH may stand tall in memory as a masterful dance of humor and heartache, but backstage? Oh, the storms were raging, and the calm was nowhere to be found. Picture this: a storm brewing on the set of MASH, where the air crackled with tension between two titans, Alan Alda, the soul behind Hawkeye, and director Jackie Cooper. Cooper, a man carved from tradition, wielded his rigid style like an iron fist, while Alda burned with a rebel's fire, craving improvisation and the freedom to create. For Alda, it was personal. He demanded authenticity, a raw pulse in every character's heartbeat. Cooper? He clung to the script like a lifeline, unyielding. Years later, Alda bared his soul to the Hollywood Reporter, his voice steady but charged. "It wasn't dislike tearing us apart. It was vision. I needed this show to feel real." Their clashes weren't just petty spats. They were a seismic struggle. Creativity warring against structure, a battle that sometimes erupted into the open. Insiders whispered of fiery exchanges, yet Alda stood firm, a professional through the chaos. That friction? It forged something extraordinary. His relentless push for truth seeped into MASH, grounding its characters, making them breathe. Cooper eventually walked away, his mark undeniable. But it's Alda's hand fans and critics still see shaping the show's soul in its later, unforgettable seasons. Now, on screen, Hawkeye and BJ's bond shimmered like gold, effortless, unshakable. But behind the scenes, the story twists. Alan Alda and Mike Farrell, who stormed into Season 4, were a powerhouse duo, yet sparks flew in their orbit. Not venom, no. Pure blazing passion fueled their occasional clashes. Farrell once peeled back the curtain in a Television Academy Foundation interview, revealing Alda's iron-willed focus. Alan was a force, intense, with standards so high they could intimidate, he confessed. They locked horns over the heartbeat of a scene, Alda chasing wild comedic riffs, Farrell digging deep for emotional truth. It wasn't war, but it was electric, their visions colliding in a dance of tension. Yet beneath it all glowed a rare respect. Farrell's voice softened as he admitted, "Alan outworked us all. I admired that fire." Off-camera, their playful jabs echoed the chemistry fans adored, a friendly rivalry that sharpened MASH's finest moments. They pushed, they pulled, each daring the other to rise higher. That dynamic? It's why MASH soared, a testament to a cast whose every disagreement was a love letter to the show they bled for. And in the end, they've both looked back and nodded. It was always about crafting something timeless. The cast of MASH might seem destined for their roles, but getting the right actors in place wasn't always straightforward. For example, Loretta Sweet, who brought Major Margaret Hot Lips Houlihan to life, almost missed out on the role entirely. Sweet was already under contract for another show, but that series didn't take off, allowing her to step into what would become one of her most memorable performances. In her own words during an interview with the Television Academy Foundation, "It was a miracle of timing. I wasn't supposed to be free, but the stars aligned. For Larry Linville, who portrayed the uptight Major Frank Burns, the casting process was more calculated. Linville understood from the beginning that his character wasn't supposed to be likable, but rather a source of tension. He described Burns as a guy you love to hate in an interview with People magazine, explaining that it was freeing to play a character without needing audience approval. He even added, "I knew going in that my job was to be the jerk, but I took it as a challenge to make Frank human, even if no one liked him." And then there was David Ogden Stiers, who joined the cast in later seasons as Major Charles Emerson Winchester III. Stiers felt enormous pressure stepping into a show that had already established such strong dynamics, filling the void left by Linville's departure. In an interview with the New York Times, Stiers acknowledged the challenge but said, "Winchester wasn't Frank Burns. He wasn't comic relief. He had depth, intellect, and layers, and that's what made him fun to play." These casting decisions weren't always smooth, but they were crucial in ensuring the unique chemistry that made the show resonate with audiences. Each actor brought something distinctive to the table, transforming what might have been standard sitcom archetypes into complex and memorable characters. After 11 groundbreaking seasons, MASH had to come to an end, but saying goodbye to a series that had touched so many lives, both on and off set, was no easy task for the cast and crew. The final episode, Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen, aired on February 28, 1983, and became the most watched television episode in American history at the time, with over 106 million viewers tuning in. The emotional weight of the finale wasn't just felt by the audience, it hit the cast just as hard. In an interview for the Television Academy Foundation, Alan Alda, who co-wrote and directed the episode, admitted how challenging it was to wrap up such a significant chapter in their lives. "I remember sitting in the editing room, and I couldn't stop crying," Alda shared. "We weren't just ending a show. We were saying goodbye to a family. Each actor dealt with the farewell differently." Jamie Farr recalled in The Hollywood Reporter that he struggled to hold back tears during his final scenes as Klinger. "It wasn't acting anymore," he said. "It was personal." Loretta Sweet described the atmosphere on set during the final days as bittersweet. "We all knew it couldn't go on forever, but that didn't make leaving any easier." What made the finale so impactful wasn't just the storytelling, but how it mirrored the real emotions of a cast and crew saying goodbye after 11 years together. For viewers, it was the end of an era. For the cast, it was the end of what many described as one of the most defining experiences of their lives. MASH may have been a critical and commercial success, but it was not without its fair share of controversies and creative disagreements. One of the more well-known points of tension revolved around the show's increasing shift from comedy to serious drama. While Alan Alda embraced the deeper, often darker tone the series adopted in later seasons, not everyone in the cast or audience agreed. Larry Gelbart, the show's original writer and producer, famously left the series after its 4th season, citing creative exhaustion and frustration with the increasing pressures from both the network and the changing direction of the show. In an interview with the Los Angeles Times, Gelbart was candid about his departure, saying, "It wasn't an easy decision, but at some point you have to know when to move on." The departures hit like thunderclaps, leaving fans reeling with questions, and none stung more than Gary Berghoff's exit, the heart behind the beloved Radar O'Reilly. In Season 8, he walked away, his shadow fading from MASH's chaotic glow. Why? The answer was raw, human. Personal battles and a grueling filming schedule that drained his spirit and body alike. Years later, he laid it bare for the Television Academy Foundation, his voice heavy with truth. I was burnt out. I adored Radar, loved him with everything I had, but I had to step back to save myself. Yet even in retreat, his pride endured, unshaken. He returned, defiant and tender, for a two-part farewell that echoed with bittersweet resonance. These backstage tremors, Berghoffs and others, whispered a hard truth. Juggling creativity, inner turmoil, and the relentless demands of the network was a tightrope walk over a chasm. MASH dazzled the world with its seamless weave of laughter and pain, but oh, the road was jagged, both in the spotlight and beyond it, where shadows danced with struggle.